The movie kicks off with Herman, our main character. He shares his dream from his younger years, a vision of crafting art that people around the world would be astonished by and would respect its magnificence. However, as he journeyed into his art, he began to sense a disconnection. His pieces, he felt, didn't reflect the brilliance he'd envisioned. We soon witness Herman working passionately on one of his art installations, a mobile art piece. Despite his commitment, his efforts yield the same disappointing results as before. His work does not succeed as he'd hope. Around this time, Herman comes across an interesting news piece about Deborah Klein, a renowned local gallery owner. She's on a hunt for innovative and daring talent. Seeing an opportunity, Herman decides to take a chance and meet her. Several days later, Herman finds himself standing before the Deborah Klein Art Gallery, a portfolio of his works in his hand. He encounters Deborah's assistant, who insists on reviewing his work prior to it being presented to Deborah herself. Though somewhat hesitant, Herman consents and unveils his latest piece. It's a globe, but not just any globe. This one releases actual gas, symbolizing the increasing carbon dioxide levels our planet is grappling with. However, the gas causes an unexpected problem, and before they know it, the fire alarm blares, sprinklers dousing the gallery in water. Post the art gallery incident, Herman returns to the comfort of his home. His mother, a constant pillar of support, is there cooking his favorite meal. She worries about his social life, wishing he'd venture out more instead of devoting every waking moment to his art. She suggests he seek guidance from his uncle Felix, a prosperous artist who has been assisting him with finances since the demise of Herman's father. Herman, however, dismisses his uncle's success. He accuses him of exploiting his villagers, making jewelry from shells, and labels him a fraud, not a genuine artist. His mother defends Felix, asserting he's a good man, but Herman remains stubbornly unmoved. As days go by, Herman finds himself preparing for a local art exhibition. It's there that he encounters Joel, another artist. Joel speaks of his philosophy of instant art, not believing in months of self-sacrificing for a single piece. Herman responds, insinuating that Joel's approach reflects a lack of true masterpiece. Herman later crosses paths with a street artist, a man who hawks his art pieces in public, offering to sell some of Herman's works while promising him a fair share of the profits. Yet Herman rejects the proposal, standing firm in his belief that his art holds a unique authenticity that the street artist lacks. The man then unfolds the tale of Marlon, a man who held a deluded belief in his own artistic prowess, even though in truth he was far from gifted. Marlon wasted his life trying to peddle his art, failing to earn even a single penny from his pursuits. One day he witnessed a lizard shedding its tail to escape danger, an act which greatly fascinated him. In a twist of fate, at the height of his despair, Marlon severed his own finger. He then retreated from his life of failed artistry, finding joy in a simpler existence with his brother, untouched by the world of paints. One morning, Herman is taken aback to find an unfamiliar man emerging from his bathroom. He rushes to his mother, confused and seeking answers. She reveals that she has rented out his room for the much-needed extra income and suggests that Herman share her room. Cleaning out his room later, Herman stumbles upon his uncle Felix's phone number tucked away in his desk. He dials the number, seeking advice, feeling a critical element is lacking in his artwork. His uncle confesses to having experienced a similar artistic block in the past, and suggests that Herman relocate to his old studio apartment where he can create freely. The hurdle, however, lies in the fact that Herman is unable to afford the rent, and Uncle Felix refuses to subsidize it, asserting that the path to success is not cheap. He cheekily tells Herman to find the money, even if it means selling blood, emphasizing the studio's importance. Inspired by this offhand comment, Herman conceived a new art project involving blood. At the local art showroom, Herman's latest piece fails to garner public interest. Instead, Joel's interactive art exhibit, which encourages spectators to participate by signing their names on the piece for a fee of $20, attracts a large crowd. Frustrated, Herman reveals his newest creation, a mobile featuring bags filled with his own blood, sweat, and tears. He even suspends himself alongside the piece, hoping to draw more attention to his work. However, the spectators merely perceive him as an eccentric, not understanding the deeper meaning behind his extreme display. The entrance of Deborah makes a key turning point. She participates in Joel's interactive art, then announces him as the newest addition to her gallery. a position Herman has been striving for. In a twist of fate, Herman gets tangled in his own mobile art and plummets to the floor, accidentally ruining other artists' works with his spilled blood. Once the authorities have tidied up the wreckage, Herman approaches Devra. He implores her to provide him with a spot at her next exhibition, swearing that this recent incident was far from his best showing. He promises to seclude himself for 2 weeks to craft his next masterpiece. A tired Devra reluctantly agrees and Herman exits. He then invests his life savings to rent his uncle's studio for the promised 2 weeks. On arrival at the studio, Herman is greeted by the building manager, Layla, who introduces him to the space, a sight far from what Herman had imagined. That night, Herman moves his belongings and enough food to sustain himself for the upcoming 2 weeks into the studio and promptly gets to work. Despite his relentless efforts, he ends up with another failed creation. He then notices a misaligned picture hanging on the wall and corrects it. In the evening, Layla pays him a visit under the guise of gifting him a homemade pie. However, her real motive is to flirt with him. She asks to view his work, but Herman dismisses her request, explaining he doesn't like anyone seeing his work before completion. He takes the pie and firmly shuts the door. As Herman's self-imposed 2-week deadline approaches, he struggles with his creation. He notices the previously fixed picture frame is misaligned again and repositions it. However, it tilts once more, suspecting something odd with the wall. He removes the picture, reminded of the tale of Marlin. Herman contemplates cutting off his own finger with a knife. Just as he's about to execute this drastic act, he notices a string extending from the hole in the wall. Curiosity piqued, he pulls the string, finding a note attached that offered him help. Baffled, he peers into the hole, lightly touching it. Suddenly, another string emerges with a message urging him to be gentle. Alarmed, Herman checks the other side of the wall, a wardrobe. Yet another string appears, inviting him to touch it. Hesitant, he complies. This time, the string delivers a fleshy, orb-like object. To his surprise, it is the missing piece he needs, allowing him to complete his mobile art to perfection. The following morning, Herman makes his way to Devra's office, calling her from the building entrance to remind her of their scheduled meeting. However, Devra rejects him, causing disappointment to flood over Herman. He insists on the phone that if only she would take a moment to see his latest creation, she would surely love it. Yet she remains firm in her refusal, explaining that she had agreed to meet him previously just to get him off her back. Heartbroken, Herman hands over his art to the street seller, hoping maybe he would be able to sell it. He then starts his disheartened walk back home, but to his surprise, people begin to notice his work. They become so captivated that they start bidding on it. As Herman turns back to observe this unexpected scene, Devra emerges from her office, joining the intrigued crowd. She ends up purchasing his art for a hefty $2,000. She offers an apology to Herman, praising his artwork as exquisite and expressing her belief that it would be a true loss if the art world missed out on a unique voice like this. Returning home, Herman revels in his newfound success. To his surprise, he hears the hole in his studio wall speak, asking about his day. As the realization sinks in that he's not dreaming, he excitedly shares his triumphant experience, mentioning that Devra is interested in signing him as her latest artist. The hole, revealing a sense of loneliness, proposes that it could assist Herman further with his creations if he spent more time with it. Struck by this strange turn of events, Herman agrees. The hole requests to seal their peculiar deal with a kiss, and Herman complies, although with some hesitation. Several days pass and Herman's productivity skyrockets. He produces more mobiles than ever before. With all the hole's inexplicable assistance, Layla pays him another visit, requesting her pie plates return and remarking that she's been hearing a female voice coming from his studio recently. The voice indeed belongs to the hole, but Herman dismisses her suspicion, assuring her that he is alone. One evening, Herman is busy preparing to visit Devra's place. She's hosting an event for new art collectors in town and wants him to meet them. The hole, on the other hand, seems eager for Herman to stay and work on their next piece of art. However, Herman lets it know that it shouldn't wait up for him, as he might return late from the event. At Devra's gathering, Herman encounters a variety of people interacting with potential buyers and art enthusiasts. Joel, now jobless after being let go from Devra's gallery, also happens to be at the gathering to pick up his remaining belongings. Meanwhile, back at his studio, Layla stomps by carrying another homemade pie. She decides to explore his studio out of curiosity. Layla stumbles upon the strange light-emitting hole in Herman's wall. Curiosity getting the better of her, she peeks into the hole, which unexpectedly shows her a glimpse of Herman stepping out of the shower. Startled and hurt, she darts out of the apartment. Back at the party, Devra shares some exciting news with Herman. The collectors have taken a liking to his artwork, and she's even managed to sell one of his pieces for an impressive $50,000. Touched, Herman reveals that he had created the piece while thinking about her, to which Devra responds with a promise of a bright future together in the world of art. Joel, puzzled by Herman's sudden rise to fame, questions how he became so talented so quickly. Herman dismisses Joel's comments and makes his way home. Once home, Herman shares the night's success with the Hole, telling it how much the collectors admired his work and the significant amount Devra sold one piece for. The Hole, however, breaks down, expressing its fear that Herman might abandon it. He quickly reassures the Hole, promising not to leave it before retiring to bed for the night. The following day, Joel, full of curiosity and suspicion, begins to follow Herman to discover what he's up to. He stealthily tails him all the way to the studio. Inside the studio, Herman is conversing with the Hole, pulling out a disfigured object it had given him. The Hole confesses it's having a creative block because it feels lonely. It suggests to Herman that they should be more intimate, which might ease its emotional state. Herman initially refuses, saying they should keep their relationship purely professional. However, the Hole threatens to withdraw its help, leaving Herman with nothing to present to Devra. Knowing what's at stake, Herman reluctantly agrees to the Hole's request, all while Joel observes from a distance. Once they're finished, the Hole provides him with a piece to complete his latest mobile art. Later, Herman visits Devra to collect his payment, but he's noticeably concerned about the Hole's state. In an effort to inspire him, Devra reveals her own artwork stored in her basement. Her creations aren't particularly remarkable, and she admits that her real talent lies in selling other people's art. Not creating it herself, Devra praises Herman's artistic abilities, and in the heat of the moment, the two share a passionate kiss, making love right there in the basement. Upon returning home, Herman finds that the Hole has grown and has even sprouted a new hole in the bathroom. The Hole voices its suspicions, stating that Devra doesn't genuinely care for him and is only using him for her own gain. Herman defends his relationship with Devra, claiming they share something special. This conversation leads to an argument, with Herman angrily asserting that the Hole isn't even human. Once Herman leaves, the Hole takes a surprising action. It reaches out to Devra, introducing itself as Herman's creative partner, and invites her over to the studio. When Devra arrives, she finds a romantically lit setting with the lights off and candles burning. The Hole tells her it prefers to stay behind the wall due to its shyness. It reveals itself as the source of Herman's artistic transformation and tries to persuade her to stay away from Herman, promising to continue delivering masterpieces. Devra, however, refuses to comply, causing the Hole to react violently, snuffing out the candles and filling the room with thick smoke. Devra collapses, but Herman arrives just in time to carry her to safety. Later, Herman finds himself sitting on a bench watching a happy family. This sight prompts him to realize what he truly wants: a family of his own, and that he needs Devra to achieve this dream. He rushes back to Devra's place and opens up about the hole in his studio wall. Given her bizarre experience at his studio, she believes his story. He confesses to her that they belong together, a sentiment she reciprocates. A heartfelt kiss, Herman heads back to his studio, ready to face whatever comes next. Back at Herman's studio, Joel is broken in, attempting to coerce the Hole into creating art for him. Herman returns home with the intention of sealing the Hole, only to be met with resistance from Joel, who now wants the Hole's magical abilities for himself. A struggle ensues between them over the possession of the Hole. During the altercation, Joel is standing directly in front of the Hole, and when Herman strikes him, the Hole reacts by sucking out Joel's internal organs, ending his life. Determined, Herman proceeds to close up all the newly formed holes. However, just as he's about to seal the original hole, Devra surprises him from behind, knocking him unconscious. Upon waking, he witnesses a horrific scene: Devra using a chainsaw trying to cut out the hole, which screams and bleeds in response. Herman leaps into action, wresting the chainsaw away from Devra. But in the process, the chainsaw accidentally cuts off all of Devra's fingers. Spare her thumbs. Shocked and terrified, Devra flees from the studio, leaving Herman alone with the dying Hole. He comforts the hole, assuring it that it's the only thing that truly matters to him. However, his reassurances come too late as the hole passes away, having lost too much blood. The following morning, a solemn Herman packs up his belongings and leaves the studio for good. The movie concludes with an emotional scene, Herman's uncle visiting the abandoned studio and placing an empty picture frame over the hole, effectively framing it and making it visible behind the empty frame. The framing of the now empty hole in the final scene is a haunting testament to the void left in Herman's life, a void that, just like the hole, can never truly be filled. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.